Welcome back to Raised by Giants, where we talk all things spirituality. I'm Ryder Lee. Tonight we have returning guest, Chief Science Officer of C60 Purple Power and former Mufon Consultant Ken Swartz, speaking about fusion power reactors, carbon C60, and the flat Earth hypothesis. But before I introduce him, check out Raised by Giants on Rokfin. It is a completely uncensored platform. Go over there, set up a free account, get all of my regular content I post here on YouTube, and sign up for Rokfin's premium content, which is far less than a YouTube premium account, at only $10 a month. And you'll get all of my premium uncensored content when it gets released, and all of the other creators' premium content as well, like Beyond Classified, Charlie Robinson, Jay Dyer, Zero with Sam Tripoli, Tinfoil Hat, Eddie Bravo, and Rex Bear Leak Project, and much more. Check the link in the description to sign up for the video streaming platform, Rokfin. Also, check out C60 Purple Power. It is the most powerful antioxidant on the planet. Helps with energy levels, skin problems, infections, eyesight, brain cognition, EMF radiation, and a lot more. It's a free radical sponge that gives your body the ability to heal itself. And if you use promo code GIANTS10 from the link in the description, you'll get 10% off your entire purchase. I highly recommend it. I've been using it for over a year with my own money, and I wouldn't recommend something that doesn't work. Tonight, we have returning guest, Chief Science Officer of C60 Purple Power and former Mufon Consultant Ken Swartz. Ken is the founder and Chief Science Officer of C60 Purple Power. He has ran several research science laboratories over the course of his career and discovered C60 while developing the Moxie fusion reactor. During his research, he became aware of the powerful free radical neutralizing properties of C60. In 2016, he founded C60 Purple Power. Ken, welcome back to the show. Thanks so much for coming on. How are you doing?
Doing great. Glad to be on.
Yeah, and I hope everyone had a really good Thanksgiving and a nice time with their family. This will be shown after Thanksgiving, and I hope that everyone had a really good time and didn't immediately go out and kill each other on Black Friday. Have you ever thought about that, Ken? How we have this really amazing holiday where everyone comes together with their family and everything, and then the very next day, early in the morning, it's like complete madness and destruction.
Oh yeah, well that's commercialization of everything, and it's something like Mother's Day was just a completely commercialized holiday from the very beginning, and it's just I mean that's what I guess maybe that's our God is commerce, so.
Yeah, I think so. And I worked in a retail store for a really long time, and I realized exactly what they were doing on Black Friday. None of those things are actually on sale. They just hike up the price and then they bring it back down to the original price and then call it on sale. So when everyone's looking at all the ads and stuff, they think that they're getting a really good deal when they're really not. They're actually paying them the legitimate retail price for the item that they're going and fighting each other over and killing each other about. Yeah, it's unbelievable how everything really has been like monetized, and all the holidays has lost their original meaning, if they really even had an original meaning anyway. I think that a lot of them are just man-made concepts that we've just all kind of bought into. But it's all been marketed, like Valentine's Day is just a big, huge marketing campaign to get your wife or your girlfriend something. And even birthdays to a degree has been marketed that way. But I'm not good with remembering birthdays. I'm horrible with remembering birthdays. So I'm really bad at that.
Well, it started all with Edward Bernays, the nephew of Sigmund Freud. And they really, they brought in how psychology can be used to sell stuff. I mean, he's one that, the tobacco companies hired him get women to smoke. So he gave it to like the suffragettes. They all were given cigarettes to smoke as they walked down, and it made great sales and stuff. But untold damage and destruction of the people that from the health problems of smoking. So yeah, I mean, you can. It's just we've allowed commercialism really to overtake our society in any and from any sense of sanity, I guess. Just like the elections. I mean, they're just I don't know, what do they spend $12 billion on the elections? If you put it all together, $12 billion. I mean, that's just ridiculous.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then we also send like millions and millions of dollars to other countries. We really discovered that with that big stimulus that came out in I think 2021 or 2022. I think that Trump was no, I think it was in 2020 because he was still president at the time, and he was like, "Yeah, we're sending all billions and billions of dollars to other countries that are a part of this stimulus package that's supposed to be going to the American people."
Yeah,
So,
well, yeah, they just send $6 billion to the Swiss bank, uh, National Swiss Bank there, because it was going under here just recently, or it couldn't cover some of the losses in the derivatives market, so they had to cover that spread.
yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk a little bit about C60 because I've been eating these gummies and
Well,
they are 100% genius. Whoever had the idea to create these gummies deserves a Nobel Prize or some kind
oh
of
yeah, it
award.
took 2 years. We have our guy. He's kind of like a product developer, but he's also a chef and and a wizard in the culinary world. So it took a while, because it took a while to get enough, because we use pure coconut oil, 100% coconut oil in them, but for a gummy to hold enough oil to get them out of C60, it took us a while because they just turn into gooeys when you try to set them up. But he figured out the secret, and now we have great gummies.
Yeah, it's very convenient. Very convenient. Like you just wake up and you can just grab one. If you take other vitamins, or sometimes I grab some gummy vitamins that I take, those kid gummy vitamins. But yeah, you just throw it in your mouth and it tastes really good too. I mean, even the oil, I don't think is bad. I still like the oil. I still grab it sometimes and I use it for my skin and stuff like that. And take a swig. I keep it in my bathroom. It's the easiest place to remember. Whenever after I'm brushing my teeth, I just take a little swig of it. But yeah, these gummies are really freaking
Yeah,
genius, and
it
and
can
they're
be
pretty.
a little addictive because it's hard to eat just one. So
Yeah, but it makes a lot more sense to, and they're cheaper, right? They're cheaper than buying a
well, they're about the same actually. If you bought
uh
it in oil, they'd be about the same if you looked at the amount of C60 per for what you get in there. And
yeah.
we have a bunch of other products too. We've got the C60 Sexy. That's an edible massage oil.
Ooh.
So that's one that we came out kind of recently with. So that's for whatever you want to do with that. And, and then we also have, of course, we have it in the traditional. We have it in the. We also now have a skin thing. It's like a little roll-on for like bites and cuts and stuff. And we're going to have some more products coming out here in the next month or two. So just keep an eye on it. Shopc60.com. That's kind of that's our website. And so we're offering new products, and eventually we're going to be offering other C60 products like a diffuser and others that we don't make ourselves, but we'll be selling them on our site.
Awesome. You guys are having a holiday sale. Is that already over, or is that still going?
We're having the Black Friday sale. Yeah, just tune in to the Black Friday sale. We also have C60. We have it in like the C60 and MCT coconut oil in little packets. And for those of you that don't know, MCT means medium chain triglycerides, which your liver turns into ketones. And so that's like flex fuel for your cells. And you can't get fat from this either because it's ketones and they're just going to be burned as fuel in your body. So if you got glucose processing issues, MCT oil is really a great idea. And of course, MCT oil with C60 is even better.
Absolutely. I would highly recommend people go to check out the Black Friday sale. Go online and shop on your products, and don't go to the store and hurt people and
Yeah.
fight over
Yes.
nonsense.
Yes. It's yeah, the car worship of the commercial. That's a little much.
So there was somebody that had a comment on one of my videos that he said that he ordered a bunch of C60, but it didn't help with his chronic pain. Now, is this a product that is? And I replied, I was like, well, I don't think that it's meant to help with
Was it
pain or chronic
RC60?
pain. I
It does help somewhat with pain. There is some pain, chronic pain, though, that C60, because C60 is antioxidant. It lifts the oxidative burden your cells are under, so the cells can heal themselves. But if you've got a chronic pain problem, there's a lot of possibilities on that. A lot of that is like, let's say if it's in your back, you could have a bone on bone, right? Scraping there, and that's C60 is not going to C60 won't cure that. It's an antioxidant. Sure, it can lift the oxidative burden, and cells can heal, then allows the cells to heal the body itself. But if you've got a real problem there, you probably need to consult with a physician to help get to the what is the cause of this chronic pain. And then once you have that, figure that out, then you can do something about it. And also the same thing also applies. C60 is not the magic pill. You still got to eat right. You need to try to eat organic food, eat a well balanced diet, get enough sleep. Probably get supplementation, vitamins, minerals, that kind of stuff. I mean, and avoid toxic situations and people. I mean, you need to do all that stuff on your path to good health. I mean, C60 is just one tool in the toolbook for good health, but you got to use them all if you want to get there.
Yeah, and like I was thinking, like it's probably some people that are expecting instant results, and they take it a couple of times and they don't feel a difference, and then they stop taking it and then say that it doesn't work. But it's something that you got to continuously take every day for a really long time to see results from, right?
Yeah, and if you're going to be working on something like that, you probably want to get the oil because it's a lot easier than because if you ate that many gummies, it would be a little bit much. So it's too much whatever there. But if you get the oil, it's just straight, and so avocado oil is probably the best. But MCT is for people with glucose processing issues. It has a little less C60 in it because it's MCT oil, shorter chain triglycerides. But there's nothing like MCT, turn to ketones in your liver to help you, kind of balance out glucose processing issues. And athletes love it too because it gives them that energy boost.
Yeah, I found that the coconut oil and the gummies, because I think the gummies are coconut.
Yeah, they're 100% coconut oil. The MCTs are like a distillate of coconut oil. So they tend to be tens, eights, and sixes in carbon chain length on the triglyceride. And that allows them to be turned into ketones by the liver. They're processed faster. But because the shorter carbon chain, it holds a little less C60. But there's so much benefits of MCT for certain people that it makes up for just take more.
Highly recommend people check it out. Check the link in the description and use promo code Giants10 to get 10% off your entire order. So, Ken, did you ever work on anything for NASA? Did you ever do any NASA projects?
No, I never did any NASA projects. I've never had a security clearance. I didn't sign those papers, guys. Sorry, you don't have a hold on me. I worked with Mufon. I've worked with people who've had NASA projects and stuff, but I've never worked on any of those directly where I have to sign a national security order or something like that. So I could have, but I never would. So I'm not their bitch because my dad was in the military and then later into other things. And once you sign your papers, you're their bitch for life, literally. And I didn't want to become their bitch for life. Sorry, I want to be an independent person and not a government flunky.
Yeah, I just wanted to. I was just curious because I know this is a loaded topic and a loaded thing to talk about because it encompasses so much. But I literally see these people everywhere, right? And these people are the flat Earth community, right? And I believe that a lot of they're in everything. They're in your chats, they're in your comment sections. They have whole entire groups dedicated to flat Earth, and that they legitimately believe that the Earth is flat.
Oh, well, that was a military intelligence operation. By the way, my dad was a major general of the Defense Intelligence Agency. That was his final highest rank. So, I know, I know a lot. I didn't want to become part of that world, but I know a lot behind it. Yeah, I think it was a bet. They said, some guys said, I'll bet you we can get people to believe that the earth is flat. And the other people said, no way, that's impossible. That wouldn't work. And so they actually went out there and created the whole flat earth thing. They started it. They got, useful idiots to promote it. They found them and they built it. And now they have there's like 4.5 million people in the United States that think the earth is flat. And that's a complete 100% intelligence operation. But that's obviously not the only type of intelligence operation where they got people believing in crazy stuff, because you can take advantage of people like that. And I mean, and they do, and not just the intelligence agencies. Advertising, obviously, there's ways, because what they do, advertising isn't aimed at your frontal lobes. It's aimed at your brainstem, at the reptile brain down there, right, where sexuality, dominance, hierarchy, desire, hunger, all those basic primitive emotions. That's what they're manipulating, not your higher frontal cortex. And that's why they go, they go past that, because television puts people in an entrainment situation. Then you can go right past the frontal lobes into deeper layers of the brain, and then if you do your advertising right, you can, get people to go smoke cigarettes, do all kinds of crazy things, believe in stuff that's just not true. But it could be used for, well, it's usually mostly used for bad or making money, but I suppose it could be made for good. But really, logical, rational discussion is more what good is based on.
Yeah, I agree. And then also, when you've created this distrust within the population and in the public, then you can implant all of these wild and crazy conspiracy theories into the consciousness and get a lot of people believing them. And then that gives the ability for the real things to kind of be brushed up underneath the rug. Right. I think that's one of the things that actually I remember Obama saying.
Oh yeah.
He legitimately said that. He said, if we can create enough distrust within the public, then we can basically make them believe anything.
Yeah, it's it's basically they muddy the waters. Like if something comes up that's like a government scandal comes up, then what they'll do is they'll create a bunch of fake kind of scandals, right? That aren't real, and or say things about it that aren't real, and they'll put people out. And so they just throw a bunch, of what against the wall, and some of it sticks, and that way people can't figure out, what's going on and what isn't, the average person. But the problem is, I mean, if you're watching television, your mind, you've basically been programmed. That's why they call them television programs, because that's what they're there to do. It's there to control. And the television media for years and years was losing money, but it didn't matter because they were being subsidized from behind the scenes. And it came out later, in the 70s, 80s, the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, even today, the media people were getting two paychecks, like Harry Reasoner and all those Dan Rather. They were getting one from their media company and one from the CIA. And the CIA one was bigger. And, and they just do what they tell. There's a book guy, Udo Unke. He was a German media person, I guess, journalist, right? And he wrote 2 books on before he mysteriously died of a heart attack. But anyway, he wrote 2 books on how corrupt the German media was, and how, because they always talking about free media, where, he basically, once you go through the journalistic schools, you'll go into these little clubs or trade organizations. And once you're in there, then you get introduced to the system. And, he had things where sometimes he'd be told what to write. His CIA handler would tell him what to write, or other times they just come down and give him a piece of paper for him to sign and post in as his written material. So, I mean, controlling of the media, controlling the narrative is very important. And so any U.S. government or occupied nation has its media controlled, and that includes Japan and probably Korea and other places. And Britain does the same thing with its Commonwealth puppets.
Definitely China too. China's got all those people on lock.
Well, the thing is, but it's like when the Soviets were saying stuff about the United States, most of what they were saying was true. And most of what the United States was saying about the Soviet Union was true. But, they would tell their own people a different story about what's actually going on. So, because that's kind of just because, as Goebbels said, you want to have a little truth in your propaganda. And there was no doubt of bad things each one of these countries was doing. So you could just pick out the baddies and show them there, and they were true. So, Soviet propaganda was true in a sense, and so was the United States. It's just that propaganda they gave their own people was the real BS. Not because you could pull somebody else's dirty underwear, but they always cover up their own. So
Yeah, a little bit of truth in there to make the lies easier to swallow, right?
oh, and yeah, I mean, in America is the United States is an imperial power, right? So is the Soviet Union, and imperial powers are not nice things, right? They're an imperial power. You don't get to become an imperial power by being a nice country, right? You do it by being a brutal imperial power, doing brutal things to conquer your enemies and take over, sections of the world. That's just the way the world works, whether it's the British Empire or the French Empire or the American Empire or whatever empire it is. It's the nature of empire to be that way.
I just don't really understand the purposes of the whole flat Earth conspiracy. Like, why does it even matter? Why I don't understand why people care so much. It doesn't matter to me if we live on a flat Earth or a round Earth or a globe or whatever. If they really believe it, then I mean, who really cares? But the problem is they try and convince everybody that we live on a flat Earth, and they get very angry and upset when you don't listen to them. And they all say the exact same thing, like verbatim, right? It's like they've just copied and pasted the same exact thing, all of them, and then they just hit the enter button on it.
Mm-hmm. And that's the nature of it. It's these are the same. Most of it has to do with fundamentalist religious values. And how fundamentalist religious values, they want to convert you to their way of being because they're really the validity of their way of being is other people coming to believe in it. And so they need to find validity in their own beliefs. They need to convert other people to believe like they do. And that is, and if somebody can come to believe like they do, then that gives the validation that their beliefs are real. And that's one step up from the moral supremacists of the left or the pseudo left, but it's kind of goes down that same philosophy.
That makes sense that they want validation to reinforce their own preconceived notions and beliefs. I just don't understand the hostileness of it. Whenever you're that hostile with something that you believe, then you're actually pushing more people away than actually having a civil conversation. It's like they're like always on the attack, like 24/7. Like I've had some of these people in my chat before, and then they'll be like, it'll be a show not even anything about flat Earth, nothing about talking about the globe or the planet or anything, and they'll come in there and they'll be like, you freaking globe tards, blah 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 blah. I can't believe they're lying to us about we're not on a globe, we're on a flat plane, and then they just like dip out, and I'm like, what? I didn't.
Well, if it wasn't that, they'd be trying to convert you to whatever religious, join the Forest Square Baptist Church or something, right? That's what they'd be trying to convert you to do, right? So it's that mentality, and then there's you have a similar mentality on the left, the quote woke crowd. But if you really dig that up, it goes back to the belief, the concept in people's minds that I create my own reality. That whatever I believe is true because I believe it, right? Of course, that would be easily dispelled if you were to put one of those people on a ship in a storm in the ocean. You would be on a small boat in a storm on the ocean. Then you will know that you do not create your own reality. But most of these people are soft city people, right? And they don't really understand reality. And so that's one of the problems with that whole wokeism, that it's not leftism even. It's moral supremacist totalitarianism. Because the real left has at least some intellectual capacity, right? Remember the real left, or quote, real liberals like Gore Vidal, right? They were anti-war. They were free speech. They were for personal choice. It's like my body, my choice. Well, that is great for we'll they'll scream about that for abortions, but when it comes to that, then it isn't that anymore. See, so it's very selective. And it comes down to one of the problems that they have, and then why they don't want free speech or any of that kind of way. They want to, because they believe that reality, they create their own reality. So whatever they believe is true, right? But that leaves you open because it's not based on facts, it's merely based on your belief. But that opens up for weakness, because if somebody else has a different reality and speaks a different their truth, then their truth, what they speak is just as legitimate as what you do, right? Because if you just create your own reality, they create a different one. Well, their reality is just as valid as yours. And of course, that puts a conundrum in those people. So the only way that they can do that is to stop other people from expressing their other reality, right? And so that's why they have to suppress speech, and everybody has to say the same thing, right? Well, we're into diversity. You can be whatever color you want as long as you say follow the exact party line, right? So they really aren't into diversity. They're just into like party conformity. And then anyone that doesn't conform, they have to be their speak catch, because all it takes, you could have 10 million woke persons, right? Believing one thing. And if just one person on the other side comes up and says a different reality, well, it just invalidates everything they say. Whereas if you go over to the traditional or the conservatives, for them, an argument or a belief isn't based on somebody's personal opinion or what you think is true. It's based on facts and logic and reason, right? There's a whole dialectic of how, of logic, and how you come to believe what you believe based on facts and statistics and all that, right? That's, the Platonic debates, right? There's a whole Socrates, Plato, there's just piles of writing over the centuries on how, reality can become an agreement of what reality is, can become through debate and reason and logic. And so those people don't, the whole concept of like, you can say whatever you want, right? They aren't bothered by other people's speech. If you're stupid, if you don't believe in the law of gravity, fine, go take a step off that 10-story building, see what happens, right? But there's a lot of other laws of reality, which are just as powerful laws about society, about nature, about, the way of people are, and, that aren't as quite in your face as the law of gravity, but if you violate them, you'll get the same sort of punishment. So they don't, so it's two completely, they're not even opposing, they're completely different conceptual realities. And one's kind of moral supremacist because they're morally superior. That gives them their power, the woke world. Whereas in the other thing, it's more the scientific method, it's debate, it's argument, it's logic and reason. And, whoever has the better logic and the best evidence, well, then the people will come to an agreement. Well, that is the reality, because that's what science does. Science gets better. Like, Democritus thought that, the world was made of little atoms and they had hooks on them, right? That's the word atom comes from. Today, now we know that, they actually have, electrons, shells, and all that. The concept has become more refined, but, because we have evidence and testing, right? Then we come to a logical degree. The same with the moon. I mean, the Japanese and the Chinese have sent spacecraft to orbit. In fact, there's a spacecraft maybe orbiting the moon right now, or it's going to be there, right? And you're going to be taking pictures and sending back to the Earth of, something orbiting the moon. You can look out there and see that the moon is a sphere, right? You can look to Mars. You can see Mars, get a telescope. You can see Mars as a sphere. You can see Saturn as a sphere. You can see Jupiter as a sphere, and you can watch the little moons travel about it. I mean, that's how Galileo kind of came to the obvious thing when he made his telescope. So it's, but that's the world, that's the universe based on facts, logic, reason, and argument. And then there's the other world of moral supremacists, where it's just belief. But usually such people are manipulated and controlled by people who are quite aware of what they're doing.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because I'm not very old. I'm only 29 years old, but I remember, because I have a pretty decent memory. I remember the left almost being in the right's position now, even whenever I was growing up in the 90s, right? Like,
Yeah.
it was almost like they've just switched roles now, right?
Mm-hmm.
I remember the left kind of being like the kind of, not really the anarchists, but the group that was the good guys, basically.
The left would be considered what people might call libertarian. Because like the US Constitution is a quote classical liberal idea, right? The idea of free speech, freedom of assembly, the right, to own your own weapon, to protect yourself. You have that right of self-defense, all the Bill of Rights, right? The 10 rights. That's kind of that is quote a classical liberal idea. Right? Then there's British liberalism, which is a totally different kind of beast, and that's more like British imperialism, with a smooth face on it. And then we call wokeism, or maybe American liberalism, but it really isn't liberalism at all. It's or leftism. It's really just an outgrowth of moral supremacism. These are the same guys that were the temperance movements, right? That they got rid of what, I don't know what the temper. They banned alcohol, right? Because it was bad for you. So they got together and they passed I think the 19th Amendment or something, which banned, I can't remember which amendment banned alcohol, and so you couldn't drink. It's those same people that are doing it. It's just that same human mentality. Now they're out to ban your speech. They banned your alcohol. Now they're going to ban your speech, or they're going to ban your smoke, or whatever it is you want to do. They want to control your life through their, because they know what's better for you than you do. And obviously there are some things. You can't be selling heroin on the street corners to school kids, but there is something about rational adults having a certain capacity of independence, and that's really what the very individualism, I guess, is one of the keys of the Americanistic ideas.
Have you ever heard of, because there is a few interesting things that some of the flat earth community talk about that is kind of interesting to me. And one of them is this NASA's Project Loon. Have you ever heard of NASA's Project Loon? It's where they put up these high altitude balloons using a special crane to launch the balloons into the sky at a height of about I think around 20 kilometers, which turns out to be like 1,000 meters above Earth. And they're fitted with solar panels, which then power the gadgets that control the balloon's operations and then beam internet signals to Earth. Have you heard of that project?
Oh, yeah. Well, actually, I know they are going to put some on blimps for backup, but really, if you could just hook into Musk Starlink's satellites, he's going to have a payment system on that too that links in with Twitter. But anyway, that's another thing to go. Yeah, they're going to. Yeah, you can just watch those satellites. How do those satellites stay up in orbit? Get yourself a night vision goggle. You can see all kinds of stuff flying by over you. How is it that satellite? If it's a flat Earth, how does the satellite stay up there and not just fall right down? How does that happen?
Absolutely. Gravity is definitely a real thing. It's very testable.
Yeah, you can just sit on a cloudy day and you can kind of see how the clouds kind of bend over the horizon. Like if you're out on the flat, the plains, Great Plains, you can just see the clouds bending over the horizon any way you look. It's like, but it's just like, for instance, we have Pikes Peak here, right? The Earth is flat. I should be able to get up on Pikes Peak and see New York City, but I can't even see the Kansas border. So, how is that? There's just 1,000 ways that shows that it's wrong, but it's not about facts or evidence. See, that's where we make a mistake. You may be a facts and evidence kind of person, but their system is based on belief. I believe something is so, therefore it is so, right? It was in this book. I believe this book, and so whatever in the book, that's what it is. So, and I'm going to believe that. The facts don't matter. And so it's two different, it's not opposing views. It's just two not even diametrically. It's just two, one is one way of being and the other is completely different. And the two there's no correlation between the two. You can't compare them. It's not even apples and oranges. It's more like apples and bricks, right? There's just no correlation really between those two beliefs. And it's a more primitive type of belief that maybe ancient ancestry had, and then now we're in a modern age and some people have moved on and some people are still in primitive beliefs, and there's not much we're going to do about that, right? Because you cannot change the world and you cannot change other people. Go ahead and try. Good luck on that one. The only thing you can change is yourself. You can change yourself. That's what you can change. And if you want to go change something, go change yourself and make yourself better. And that way you'll have a better life.
Yeah, I did a little research on kind of where the flat earth thing kind of started. And I believe that it started with a person in 1838 in England, and he went under a pseudonym name of Parallax, I believe. And he did an experiment, right, where he found this 6 mile long canal, right? And he said that if the Earth is a globe and the Earth is 26,000 miles in circumference, if he's looking at a straight line after the first mile, the curvature of the Earth would make a 6 inch lower dip in the canal. And 2 miles out would be 32 inches lower. 3 miles out would be something like 6 foot, and so on. So he did this thing where he took a telescope out into this canal and put a boat on the canal with a 1 meter stick to observe if the stick would disappear over the canal. And the flat earthers have just kind of adopted that and that disproven theory because of atmospheric refraction and air density and how light behaves when being observed. But they've taken that and they've kind of turned that into, well, if you look out into the ocean, you can't see any curvature. Whenever you can look as far as the eye can possibly see, and you can't see any curvature. It just continuously keeps going.
Yeah, I've actually seen people reproduce that experiment, flat earthers reproduce the experiment, and it fails. Literally, the little meter stick disappears over the horizon. Yeah, they've actually seen them do that. They had like surveying equipment and they took it out like X, and lo and behold, it dropped. It dropped. Yes, it is curved. Yeah, and then they said they couldn't believe it. Anyway, yeah, if they actually try to physically do those tests, they always fail because the Earth is a sphere and that's the way it's going to be. But it's not about truth. It's about belief. They believe it because, and most of it has to do sometimes with fundamentalist Bible beliefs, because the Earth is flat because God ruled out, the four corners of the Earth. How could the Earth be a sphere if it has four corners? So therefore the Earth has to be flat because it's written in a book. It was written by people.
And another one that they normally come up with is that it involves the moon and the moon landing, which it is. We talked about this a little bit last time that you were on. It is really interesting, though, Ken, that I don't know if you know the former astronaut Don Pettit, but he made a statement that he'd go to the moon in a nanosecond, right? But the problem is that we don't have the technology to do that anymore, and that we destroyed that technology, and that it's a painful process to build it back again. And that was the words directly out of his mouth.
They have black budget technology can get you there in freaking a few hours. It's not like a big deal. It's just that they don't have obsolescent technology that all fell away. I mean, the Japanese and Chinese have put spacecraft around the moon and they took pictures, right? I mean, if you looked at the Hubble, if you look at the Hubble telescope even, or even our biggest telescopes on Earth, if you looked at the moon, because the moon's so far away, 1 pixel is about 20 feet square, right? Which is below resolution to see anything. But when you put something in orbit of the moon, I mean, they have pictures of the landing sites, they have pictures of the footprints, they have pictures of everything. You can see it, the Japanese, the Chinese, the Russians, they've all been there. They've all taken the same pictures. We've taken pictures of their spacecraft landed on the moon. So it's not like we hasn't, so we have all that evidence, but people just ignore it, The China, you go see the Chinese mission or Japanese mission. They went to the moon and they have pictures of our landing sites there, right? So how are they conspiring with NASA? Oh, and by the way, before they actually went to the moon, they actually did make movies like they were landing on the moon and they went through the whole thing. In fact, they went through it again and again and again and again. It's like, they had a whole schedule on what they're going to do, right? How to walk out of the capsule, how to take the rocks, how to do that. They did repeated trainings of that, and they filmed it too, of them going out and doing. So there's that footage too, yeah, where they did it. They had and they also did it on site. There's some craters out in the west, and they put them out there in their space suits, and they'd go around, and you have to do training, right? It's another planet, right? They did training underwater where they practice, being weightless or lower in weight, and so that they could get used to that. So because if you're going to go to a planet with 1/6 the gravity of Earth, you need to be trained to do that. You can't just, we're just going to go there and do it. No, you have to actually work. It's like anything, flying an airplane, riding a bike, right? doing anything, a skateboard. You have to do it again and again and again and again and again and again and again until you're good at it. You know what to do. There isn't any questions. You've done it again and again. Oh yeah, that training went on and on with the astronauts. Absolutely, lots and lots and lots and lots, weeks, days, months of it. So they knew everything that they needed to do to get the job done. I mean, you wouldn't succeed if you didn't do that. And then they say, oh, look, they were doing all this training, all this stuff. It's a fraud. No, it isn't. They were just doing their training for when they get there and actually have to do something.
I think it was Johnny Enoch that I had on my show that was telling me about these reflectors that they placed up on the moon, and they would actually hit the reflectors with a laser beam, a laser light from Earth to reflect back. Is that something legitimate that the astronauts dropped on the moon?
Oh yeah,
if you're aware
absolutely.
of?
And actually, that's part of my master's thesis was the retention of magnetic fields and rotating terrestrial planets through the actions of a close large orbital partner. And basically what's happening, the Earth's rotation is slowing down, and it's that rotational energy is being transferred to the moon, so the moon's orbit is increasing. So the moon moves away from us about 1.5 centimeters every year, and the Earth's rotation slows down just a tiny little bit. And that's been going on for billions of years, because early, and when the Earth first formed, there was 10-hour days, and the moon was a quarter the distance of what it is now. Imagine like up, where they have like in Nova Scotia, Bay of Fundy and stuff, where they have 30-foot tides. Well, if the moon's a quarter the distance, that's 8 times higher. So you'd have like 240-foot tides. Imagine that.
So the moon was closer to us back.
Oh yeah, when the moon first formed, it was a body, they call it Terra, hit the Earth, and the fragments that stayed coalesced into the moon, and it was about a quarter the distance from what it was now, somewhere like 60,000-70,000 miles. And then it made a new body, and then because the Earth rotates faster than the moon orbits, the Earth transfers rotational energy to the moon, which becomes orbital energy because it kind of lags, right? It's kind of the moon's, the energy, there's a tidal bulge kind of pulls the moon along and slows the Earth down. But the Earth does the same with the sun does the same with the Earth, because the sun rotates faster than the Earth orbits. And you'll see it on Mercury. The sun rotates faster than Mercury orbits. And so Mercury's locked in a 2-3 ratio. So Mercury does 3 rotations for every 2 orbits around the sun. And that's held in place because the sun is giving energy to Mercury. And so it puts it in that locked orbit. And we can see the same thing in the outer part of the solar system. For every 3 orbits of Neptune, Pluto orbits exactly 2 times, because they're also caught in a tidal resonance where Neptune is transferring orbital energy to Pluto, and that keeps them locked in a 2-3 ratio. And then there's also, and most moons, like for instance, around their planets, like a moon rotates 1 orbit for every rotation, it does 1 orbit. That's why we always see the moon facing us, right? And that's the same for every moon on the thing. But sometimes the moons interact, like the bodies of Jupiter. For every 4 rotations of Io, the innermost moon of Jupiter, Europa orbits 2 times, and Io orbits 1 time. So they're in a 4-2-1 harmony. Callisto isn't quite caught up yet. It's being pulled into that harmony, and that makes a certain asymmetrical energy on Ganymede, the outermost, the 3rd moon of this system, and that's why Ganymede has a magnetic field about 1% the Earth's, and that's also why Mercury has a magnetic field 1% the Earth, because that energy is being transferred. Like the reason we have our planets even alive is the moon actually pulls the inner core of the Earth. It actually turns it into an egg-like shape because of gravitational distortion, so it pulls it off center. And since the Earth rotates faster than the moon orbits, it causes the core is pulled off center, so it causes the core of the Earth to rotate faster than the rest of the planet, and that creates the heat and the friction, which keeps all the volcanism and magnetic field going. That's the actual source of the Earth's magnetic field and all the volcanism we see. Otherwise, if the moon had not been there, Earth would have frozen up like Mars or Venus. And there wouldn't be any. There probably might be bacterial life here, but there wouldn't be advanced life here. Yeah, the moon. You have to have something like the moon to keep the insides of your planets working. Otherwise, you just freeze up and die. And you see that in Ganymede, Mercury, and the Earth. There is close action. There's the actions of a close large orbital partner.
So, how would you navigate a rocket in space, though, Ken, when you have nothing pushing back on you? Almost
Well,
zero gravity in space. You still have weight in space, even though Earth's gravitational force is smaller in orbit than it is on Earth's surface. However, you wouldn't feel the weight because nothing is pushing back on you, and you would need to
well, that's
have
why
that.
you throw stuff out the back. That's what they do with rockets. Rockets are inertial drive systems. And and so let me show you something here. Do, do. I'm gonna go, yeah, just yeah. So we throw stuff out the back, and the amount that you throw it out the back is exactly the amount that it moves forward.
What would you be
Okay.
throwing out? What would you be throwing out the back though?
We
Like,
throw out hot gases. We throw out hot gases. So off the back of the rocket, we throw really hot gases out the back.
but how much you would have to have that would make your payload so little to be able to because your entire rocket would basically be 90% of 90% gas,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
exactly. That's what it was. That's the rocket that went to the moon. We I think 99% of all the stuff that went, we only got like 1%. The capsule got there, it was like less than 1% of the whole way to the rocket. Everything else was just thrown behind. They just throw all the gases out, and when the first stage was done, they threw it away. The second stage was done, they threw it away. And so by the time you got to the moon, we used up 99% of the mass just to get there, right? Which is why, now there's different things. They use electrogravity, which is Townsend Brown came up with that, because there's actually, the ether theory of the universe. Here they think we're just particles in empty space, but the vacuum has permeability and permeability. Hey, can you give me let me share screen on this thing?
Yeah, you got it.
Okay, let me see if I can, okay. Speaking of that, okay, let's see, you are, okay, can you see that?
Yes.
All right, how does it fill up the whole screen, or we got like little edges on there? Let me pull this over. There we go. Here, this is something, these are, in fact, these are this is new gravity. You've always heard of Newton, right?
Yeah.
Newton had a concept called point mass, where you shrank all the mass and volume of the Earth to a tiny point, and you did all, let's say, with the moon to another tiny point, and then you could measure between them, and you came up with all kinds of good things. The only problem that Newton did is it didn't really it really doesn't work. I mean, measuring the gravity from the Earth to the moon, but when I did my master's thesis, I was going to try to use the Newton thing, and I couldn't came up with it. So I came up with a new set of gravitational formulations, which, by the way, any all anti-missile systems and anti-satellite systems and most planets ballistic systems use this mathematical formula, the KNS analysis. I just call it the new gravitational formulations, and it's 3 magnitudes essentially more effective than Newton's. So you'll get the exact gravity on like the oblate Earth. Basically, Newton used an infinitesimal point mass. I shrink down the mass and volume of the Earth to an infinitesimal line segment, and then from that you can make new things. So this is like Newtonian's gravitational acceleration, and it's not very, it's accurate 2 spots on the Earth's surface, right? Somewhere, like 45 degrees latitude, longitude. But anyway, here this one is pretty much accurate everywhere on the Earth's surface. That's why, like before, if you threw a ballistic missile across the planet, it would you could get within a couple hundred yards of where you're going. Now with this bottom one, you could get probably basically the width of my outstretched arms. I had originally designed it for planetary science, and so for planetary landing, because they crashed a lot of planets, space probes on Moon and Mars. That's why they lost the Mars polar lander. But I knew Peter Smith, who was the main doctor of the Phoenix lander, the same exact platform. The Phoenix lander worked, the Mars lander didn't, because I showed that NASA couldn't even calculate the correct gravity on Mars. And so they crashed the Mars polar lander, where I talked to Dr. Peter Smith about it, and he said, "Oh, I can't believe that." But he made sure the radar rangefinder was absolutely running when they kicked off the heat shield and dropped on, or when the parachute dropped off. and so that's why it landed. So this is, and then that's for gravitational acceleration. Here's escape velocity. Yeah, you ever wonder why the Soyuz spacecraft takes 4 hours to get to the space station and NASA takes 50? That's how. There it is right there. These are all three magnitudes, quote, they three more digits on the end, right, of accuracy than Newton's. Here's another one, satellite orbital period. The old Soyuz spacecraft, and the Chinese, for instance, had the Chinese got it first anyway, but they had a real problem, for the Soyuz to dock with the International Space Station. It always had to use manual overrides. Not anymore. That was decades ago, right? That's why they don't need to use manual overrides anymore. That's why the Chinese could knock a satellite out of its orbit. Yeah, I actually shared it with a certain defense contractor that name unknown, and as for a space thing, and they told me, and then they used it for a particular anti-satellite missile system, and or an anti-missile system. And then I said, it didn't work. It starts with a T, ends with a D, if you can figure that out. And then they started using that missile system that could never work, started working. He said, you can't go use my mathematical formulas like that. And he said, blank you, we would never take somebody else's formulas and use them, which I know is a lie because my dad used to work with them and they stole shit all the time. So, but they also, they told me, well, it doesn't really matter because, we have entire law firms. What have you got? Well, I have a pen and pencil. So I just gave us all away. So everybody in the world has this now. These three magnitudes more effective gravitational accuracy for planets. And so that's the force of gravity. And mine's kind of a barycentric thing. And rather than so it's more of an infinitesimal infinitesimal line than a point mass. It's just like one step up. It's not particularly, it's kind of like the barycentric model, whereas, two bodies don't orbit around a common center of gravity. They don't, orbit around. The moon does not orbit around the Earth. The Earth does not orbit around the moon. They actually orbit around a barycenter, which is a common center of gravity, and that's basically the base. You can actually get a fourth when you take this, you can actually get a fourth Keplerian law out of it once you add the barycentric thing. But anyway, and so this is some of the ways, like the moon is actually a prolate body. It's actually like our Earth is an oblate body. That's like this thing here, the first one over here, where they can see the little dot.
Yes, it's an egg shape. That's what I think that the Earth is.
It spins. It spins, and so kind of centrifugal forces or push out the center and lower the poles, right? So when you do a Newton thing at that little tiny point in the center, a perfectly spherical gravitational field spreads out from it, right? So you're inaccurate at the poles, you're inaccurate at the equator, and somewhere in between there's a line on either hemisphere where you're accurate, one tiny spot. Whereas with mine, you're accurate everywhere on the surface of the body. It's good enough for space flight, missiles. You'd have to add one more factor if you want to do teleportation, but I've already done that, but who needs that? So we don't do that yet. And then but the moon's actually prolate because it's kind of stuck in that gravitational orbit. It's kind of stretched out. It's more like an oval with one point facing the Earth. And so you actually have to do a different latitude things. Like on the moon, if you want to put in like here on the moon, you always see them where they have the North Pole of the moon and the South Pole of the moon, and then they put like longitude and latitude lines. No, that's not the way you do it with a prolate body. You put like the near point center, like we look here on the Earth, the point facing the Earth, that would be the near pole, and then they would have the far pole, and then you'd put your latitude and longitude off that. And when you can take my same formulations, and what it is you just go up here and in this guy, right up at the top here, if you're looking for density, there is a let me go over the top. Yeah, there's like a little thing here this is like velocities difference. You just kick in a sine value and it works fine. So instead of a cosine value, but anyway, that's so you can actually you used to have to flip it around a little bit, and you can get the exact latitude. You get the exact gravitation on the moon, so you don't do it. And that's actually where you may have heard the thing when they first landed the guys on the moon. They had this extra energy in the capsule, like in the power, so that Neil Armstrong was actually to land it. And they said they should have run out of fuel and crashed. Well, the problem is because if you use a Newtonian thing, on that the actual gravity, the real gravity on the point closest toward the Earth is actually less than it is on than they calculated, and it's actually more here on the edge than they calculated. So that's where that extra fuel came from when they landed on the moon, because
So they got the extra gravitational pull from the Earth whenever they
no,
were.
no, it's actually, well, it's just because the moon's it's all spread out the way the moon's gravity distributed, because it's all the mass is deformed, and so it's just less gravity here than their calculations would well, more gravity and less anyway. And so it's just they can't, and the same with Mars. Like they calculate the gravity on Mars, they estimated up at the poles because they use Newtonian thing is higher than what it is. And so when they put the retro rockets on the Mars polar lander, instead of being like 10 meters above the ground when they put in they have like a little landing guidance computer. The radar comes in and lands it. Instead of being like 10 meters over the surface, they were like 200 meters over the surface because they did a 5 kilometer burn at 5% too much. And so they were way too high above the ground because their calculated gravity was too much. And so they had a problem. Here they gravity, and so, but if they tried to do it at the poles, then gravity would be too, I mean, down at the equator, gravity would be more than they would calculate. So it's just a mathematical formulation. So these are actually the ones that the smart people use. And then NASA doesn't use them, but Soyuz spacecraft does. So that's why the Soyuz spacecraft can take 4 hours to get to the space station, and NASA takes 50 hours. So you saw it here. Yeah. And now this is all classified, of course, wherever it's being used, but I don't care. You can't, by the way, you can't patent mathematical formulations because they're part of the way the universe is. So, I can't patent them or get anything, for them. Wow. It's not like, came up with a product, I could patent it, but a mathematical formulation is not patentable. So anyway, that's just a fun little thing there. So that's what you get. Yeah, they told me to go bugger myself. We got law firms and I don't, so I just gave it to everybody. Now everybody has it, and everybody can do it. And if you're not good enough to make an anti-satellite weapon, I get too bad for you. Then your competitors, and you don't have it, because I'm not going to let people get advantage by stealing from me. So I'll just give it to everybody. They can all steal it from me, and everybody can have the same exact advantage.
That's really interesting way to do that. I never thought about doing it like that. If someone takes something from you, just make it available for everyone.
Yeah.
Right? Someone steals something.
That's the same thing with our metal oxygen fusion reactor. That's a couple of Japanese guys I saw on Kushi came up with it in the 60s, but Germany or Japan was an occupied country, so they got suppressed, right? As an occupied country, that's what happens to occupied country science. Same in Germany. And so basically it was I don't know, 60 years later. They'd all died out and stuff. And we basically at the right place, the right time with the right people. And we redid their experimentation. It's metal. You can go on ResearchGate, look it up. Ken Swartz, Gary Rodriguez, metal oxygen fusion. You can find it easy. It's on ResearchGate. And we basically redid their thing. It's metal and oxygen. And we found a way to do fusion over 1 million times easier than common levels of fusion. And not only that, we actually are giving away working fusion reactors right now to university, government, and corporate partners who want to be partners with us. And we'll just ship it to you, set it up. We got a big book of directions, and you can set it up, and you too can have a working fusion. And from our calometrics, it was over Unity even, because we had to bury, when we were doing our experiments, third-party ones, we had to bury the thing, and because we had to bury it in ice just to keep it warm. And when we're not running the fusion, right, we can have the electric stuff work all the time, doesn't do a problem. The minute we put the fuel in, turn it on, it heats up so much that the gas gets too thin in the chamber, and then the sparks won't last. So we had to actually bury it in ice. And so for all the ice we melted, it's over Unity by far. We did the calometrics because it runs off 2 little batteries, right? It's not like these tokamaks you see, right, where they turn on and the lights in the city dim because they need so much electricity. Ours runs off a couple 12-volt batteries, and you just turn it on, and you can. And we did it, and we posted on ResearchGate, and we've been fighting the patent office, right, to get a patent on it. So a couple of guys but if you look at the patent office, you think we abandoned the patent. No, we're in litigation, guys. But a couple of guys took our experiment, redid it with a slightly different one, and they put it in another patent, but they so you can reproduce our experiment easy. In fact, let me go back to, are we still screen sharing?
Yeah.
Let me see if I could find, let me go, I got to get back to, let me go back to you. Okay, I'm right there. I just gotta shrink this down. Let me go see if I can find what we're looking for here.
Yeah,
And
that's
yeah, these are the guys that ripped us off. We can't, well, flattery is the thing. Let me get back here. Okay, sharing the screen, and there it is. There we go. And these are the guys that's if you can you see that on there?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So let me get that over so we don't see the rest of my stuff. Okay, yeah, this is what they did is they basically redid our experiment. And what we were doing is we were taking deuterium and oxygen 16 and turning it into fluoride 18, which then decays into oxygen 18. And so these guys, we were using a multi-channel spectrum analyzer. So we could see like all the gamma rays and X-rays and everything coming off the experiment. And we showed that that's how it was being made. These guys, all they did is they got an ionized bead detector so they could detect things like fluoride. So they basically redid our experiment, only they just did a detector that only thing it does is detects fluoride, because you put in oxygen, you put in deuterium, which is a proton and a neutron, right? Heavy water, and you put in oxygen and out comes fluoride. That's proof of fusion. So that's what they did. They just used a fluoride detector. And this is their little thing. They basically have an air compressor where they were putting in pressurized argon gas in the reaction chamber. Then they were using an induction coil to make an electric spark in there between the anode and cathode. And because this was under pressure, argon gas per pressure, it would actually leak out. A little bit was coming out and went into the hydrogen fluoride, because deuterium will combine with hydrogen, make hydrogen fluoride. And so they showed that the fluoride would come and become generated. Fluoride 18 specifically. You can't tell it from that. It just shows you that there's fluoride there. So this is some nice, I guess we call it third-party confirmation of Osawa and Kushi's experiments. We did the first confirmation of Osawa and Kushi experiments. These guys did the same, and they're chasing the same patent we are. Kind of. Well, they have a different use for it, but they have.
What are they using this device for?
What they want to do is, because one of the things you make is there's a thing with, if you get fluoride 18, fluoride 18 usually decays through positron decay. That means it kicks out a positron, and that turns a proton into a neutron and goes to oxygen 18 that way. And then the positron goes and hits an electron and makes two gamma rays. And it's used in gamma ray imaging, like for health things. You give people this fluoride 18 drink, it goes through the body, it collects in certain organs and stuff. And then the fluoride decays and lets off these gamma rays. And then you can kind of see what's going on inside the body. It's an imaging process. It's kind of the same with the way that people give you gadolinium or barium, sometimes radioactive barium, for checking out your colon or something if you got cancer and things like that. It's the same sort of the thing. It's a medical procedure, basically.
And that's what they're using.
Yeah, they make this. You make a bunch of radioactive fluoride 18, then you put it in an injector. You basically inject it into somebody in a saline solution, and then that fluoride would go to certain organs in the body, and where it'd be sequestered, and then it would release produce gamma rays as it decays, and then you could use it to as a medical imaging device of what the body works. So that's what their patent is for. And so this is just confirmation of our confirmation of Osawa Kushi's experiment. And they're trying to steal our patent, but that's okay. They're not going to win, but in that case, but it is nice that they gave us free, because that's what the patent office was complaining about. You don't have enough. We had third party verify our results, right? A third party was TSA Systems, right? That makes the security systems for TSA for detecting atomic stuff being smuggled through the borders, right? They confirmed our stuff, but that wasn't good enough for the patent office. Now we've got a couple of Scotsmen and some Spanish guys got together and did that experiment, and they went for a U.S. patent, thinking they're going to try to steal ours. That's okay. I don't really care, but it's it's something that people can benefit, because we can use this to boil oil and the synthesizing of new elements. Because Osamu and Kushi, what they did is they took sodium and oxygen, they were fusing it into into potassium. And they had they basically, they're using the same ballast off, your sodium street lamps. And they made a little chamber, and they were fusing sodium and oxygen into potassium. And but if you go read the paper on ResearchGate, where you can see where people were fusing tungsten oxide into gold, and that is the fusion part. Then there's a fusion fission process where you fuse it up but it's unstable in a positive manner, and then it breaks down, and it was making rare earth elements and beryllium 9, which is a valuable thing. And another guy, Dr. Bass, was using it, and he was using for $60 an electricity per ounce. He was turning thorium, or you could do the same with uranium, into harmless non-radioactive metals. And unfortunately, he didn't know that he didn't do his atomics right. He was also making a short-lived radioactive gas. We think radon, or xenon, an alpha-emitting xenon probably. And unfortunately, he was breathing that in, and that's why it's the late Dr. Bass. You got to be careful. That's actually how I discovered C60, because people that were doing these experiments, they were all dying, right? The late doctor this and the late doctor that. I said, whoa, I don't want to have that, or my crew, who's his family, right, who I'm responsible for. So I went out looking for something to protect me from radiation. I found this stuff called carbon-60, where you give one set of rats got carbon-60, the other set of rats didn't. They hit them with a multiple dose of fatal radiation. Pretty much all the carbon-60 rats lived. The ones that didn't have the C60, the control rats, they pretty much died very quickly. And when I learned about that, I said, whoa, I'm going to get carbon-60. So I got carbon-60 for myself and my crew, and we're all still around, by the way. And then about, but I kept taking it because, I got more energy, mental clarity. I was just being healthier, right? When I was taking the C60, then I went into my eye doctor, and my drusen, or dry macular degeneration, had completely disappeared. And then by that time, Gary Rodriguez, who was the electrical engineer on the project, well, he had, Rodriguez, right? He had developed type 2 diabetes. It's pretty common in people with the name Rodriguez. And part of the side effects is causing severe wet macular degeneration. We used to be able to post the photos of his before and after pictures, but he basically took 1 tablespoon of C60 and MCT oil for a year, and his wet macular degeneration had completely disappeared. And his type 2 diabetes actually dropped below subclinical levels. So he still had problems with blood glucose, but it wasn't type 2 diabetes anymore. And of course, at that point, I knew, whoa, I was onto something. Because, mine, Drew's going away, that just might be a fluke, right? I've been working on it for years with lutein and, diet and all that sort of stuff. But, but Gary's won both of that. And then so I started to find ways to make it for friends and family, right? And then I shared it with my local healthcare practitioners, and they were having great results. So they shared it with their patients. Their patients were having great results. And an internet influencer, Cliff High on Sarah Westall's show, mentioned how it saved his and his wife's life, and did like $100,000 in sales in one day. And then and then the rest is history. And that's kind of how the whole thing. I had to shut down my company, and I was just one guy, right? I was working 18-hour days, like 17 days to get the orders out so I could restart it, and PayPal would pay me. So it was just, but I managed to make the bump, and boom, and C60 Purple Power was born. So
that's how you create the carbon C60, is with this
the carbon
fusion reaction?
It's made in a special lab. They actually make it in the same way it's made in the atmospheres of giant red stars. 3 guys got a Nobel Prize: Harry Kroto, Richard Smalley, and Robert Curl. They got a Nobel Prize for the discovery of C60. And they discovered in 1985 it solved a long-standing mystery in astronomy. There was something between the stars absorbing infrared light. But it was a big band, so it had to be a molecule. But what kind of molecule could absorb, could survive in the radioactive atmosphere of, outer space, right? So Harry Kroto knew it was probably this buckyball, because Buckminster Fuller had predicted, the carbon-60 atom. And he said not only would it be discovered, this molecule existed, but it would have amazing health benefits. And that's decades before it was discovered, or even the amazing health benefits are discovered, right? That's why they named it Buckminster Fullerene, science name. And so they proved that this was the dibs. It's made in the atmospheres of giant red stars. For people listening, giant red stars is what our sun's going to become. When our sun runs out of burning helium, or burning hydrogen into helium, all that's going to be left is helium, and the core is going to crunch down, and it's going to start burning that helium into carbon. And so that makes a very carbon-rich star, and it gets really hot, and so the atmospheres kind of bubble off. And as those atmospheres of carbon-rich atmospheres of of the star bubble off, they make carbon 60. And so you do the same thing in a lab. You get a little chamber. Well, actually, it's a big chamber, and you put about 1/10 the atmospheric pressure of helium in that chamber. And then you put 2 carbon rods in there, and you run, carbon is electrically conductive, so you run a bunch of electricity through it. You heat them up, and they just basically, it's like a carbon arc lamp, and it just kind of turns it into powder, turns the carbon into powder. And if you do it right, you can turn about 10% of that carbon into carbon 60, and maybe 0.1% into carbon 70. And then you got to separate the carbon 60 from, you have to separate the carbon 60 and the carbon 70 from the ashes, the 95%, 90% ashes. And that's where it becomes a problem. Now, we use sublimated C60, and sublimation is the cousin of evaporation. If you remember from chemistry class in high school, it's when a solid turns into a gas and then back into a solid. So there's guys that have a sublimate. We don't do it. We have professionals that know what they're doing, that do the sublimation. And so that's how you get 99.99% pure C60. Because that's what you do. If you look at, if you're looking for something, get sublimated C60, because it's 99.99% or 99.8% just by the nature of sublimation. A lot of C60 out there is solvent-based C60. They use methylbenzene to make it, right? Benzene, a known carcinogen. And then that'll dissolve the C60 and C70, and then they have to put it through diffusion columns, and then they flush it out. So now we have this C60
diluted, really diluted.
Yeah, and then they boil off the methylbenzene and hopefully recover it, and then you still have the C60, but the C60 has always got a little bit of methylbenzene in there. So if you go out there and you see somebody who's selling you 99.9% pure C60, like some supercharged C60 dude, well, what he's not telling you is that 0.1% is methylbenzene. Okay, a known carcinogen, or even so you don't want that, really. What you need to do is you look for 99.99% pure C60, but look for sublimated C60. That's the key. If it's sublimated C60, your C60's never been exposed to carcinogenic toxins, solvents. It's just pristine, and that's what we use. So, and there's other people, by the way, that use sublimated C60. We're not the only ones. There's lots of other C60 producers who use sublimated C60. Just make sure you're getting your C60 is sublimated C60, and at 99.9%, because that's the purest. And then also you want to look for the oils that are in, because we use avocado oil, olive oil, coconut oil, right? And those are like the Goldilocks of oils, because there's some oils that have a really long shelf life, but they're inflammatory because they're so full of omega-6s, like canola oil, soybean oil, cottonseed oil, sunflower oil, safflower oil, right? These oils are full of omega-6s, and they're very inflammatory. In fact, that's one of the reasons why there's so much heart disease and weight gain and problems with people, because people are eating these basically unhealthy oils. We're meant to have a omega-6 to omega-3 1-to-1 balance, right? That's what we're meant to be. We're not meant to be this 20-to-1 omega-6 to omega-3. And then so that's why we use olive oil, avocado, and MCT coconut oil, because they have a nice balance. And then there's other oils too, like hemp seed oil, flaxseed oil, and fish oil, and they're really good for you because they got lots of omega-3s. But the problem is they go rancid really quickly. So you should always buy your fish oil, hemp seed oil, flaxseed oil off the refrigerated section of your health food store. Don't buy that stuff off the shelf, because you don't know how long it's been on there. Chances are it's rancid, and rancid oil is bad for you. So we picked like the Goldilocks of oils. Olive oil. People have been using olive oil for thousands and thousands of years. We all know it's extra virgin, 100% organic olive oil. So that's why we use it. And then we also have 100% organic avocado oil, because avocado, see, the problem with this, when I first got C60 from a couple suppliers, everybody was using it in olive oil because that's what the original experimenters used, right? To double the lifespan of test animals. When they first experimented with it, it basically doubled life of test animals. So that started the whole C60 thing. Well, I have a sensitive digestive system. So if I took like an ounce of olive oil, I'd be visiting the bathroom and I'd be wasting my C60. So I found that my system can digest avocado oil very easily. And then I also got the MCT coconut oil from my friend Gary Rodriguez, because he had glucose processing issues. And so by putting the C60, it holds a little less C60, but you just take a little more of the MCT coconut oil, and to get the C60 you need, and you need that MCT anyway if you've got glucose processing issues because it's a flex fuel for your body. So if you can't get the glucose because of glucose insulin resistance or not producing insulin, those MCTs, your cells can pull them in and use them as a fuel source. It's ketosis. And you can put it in your coffee in the morning and it doesn't break your ketosis either, because MCT turns into ketones and they can't put fat on your body. So that's the three things that we did. And by the way, we on the side of our bottles, if you're interested, we also have QR codes where you can go and you can see that we use real 100% organic avocado oil, olive oil, MCT oil, right? It's right there. You can go to the source. And also when we make a product, you can get the before and after testing. We take our product and we send it to third-party testers. Test it for microbiologics, right? Microorganisms. You can see that test. And we also test it for purity and concentration of C60. You can see that test. And those are third-party tests. And because the same thing happened to the C60 market as happened to the CBD market, right? When CBD was small, pretty much everybody made a quality product for their things. CBD became popular. You got people producing, products. The same with C60, products with no CBD or no C60, products with low quality, low concentrations of C60 or CBD, right? It's the same thing. And so one of the things that to get around that, and of course, there were a lot of plants were being just dosed with pesticides and herbicides, right? So they went to a testing protocol, and we've done the same on our own with C60. So you can test for purity and microbiologics, so it's safe and effective. The same thing as the CBD market. We are in Colorado, and I did work in a grow at one time. So yeah, I know how to make quality products you can trust and scientifically back them up.
Thanks so much, Ken. I appreciate your luck. Can you plug the website where they can purchase their C60 from, or any of your other products?
Yep, shopc60.com. And
Awesome.
we go there. We got a whole bunch. We got the 3 oils. We got the gummies. We got the packets. We've got C60 Sexy. We also have now a skin roll-on, and we're coming up with a couple new products soon. So just stay tuned. There'll be new and interesting C60 products coming soon to you on shopc60.com.
Awesome. I highly recommend people grab these gummies. Wonderful product. Or grab either the avocado oil or the coconut oil as well.
You have a coupon code, right?
Yes.
Do you have a link? Do you have a link on your website?
I have a link and a coupon code, Giants 10.
Go to the link. If you're listening, use his link and go to the website, because even if you, let's say, take some other sale, if you use his link, he gets credit for your purchase. So use this link underneath in the show notes.
Yes, use the link and use promo code Giants10 for 10% off. And thanks so much, Ken. I appreciate taking the time to talk with me today. I'd love to have you back on sometime in the future. For everyone else, thanks for watching and listening. Much love to everyone in the chat. Please be sure to hit the thumbs up button, help the channel out in YouTube algorithm, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon as well for notifications. And remember, we're not only in a spiritual war, but a war on humanity. Stay aware, stay alert, keep loving your heart for everyone, stay safe out there. And if you can see through the illusion, you are the solution. See you guys next time.